For more, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Oliver Farry. Oliver, what effect, if any, is this ICJ ruling going to have?
Well, ultimately, it's not going to have any effect on the war itself. Israel says it will not abide by it, and we've already seen that it's not doing that. And nobody, whether they be allies or enemies of Israel, is going to intervene militarily to enforce this either. So Israel has been firm in its dismissals of the rulings by both the International Court of Justice and also the one earlier this week from the International Criminal Court. They say they're anti-Semitic and that they deny Israel's right to exist. But where the ruling might have an effect is in this ongoing genocide case brought by South Africa at the International Court of Justice. Now, that case is probably unlikely to succeed given the high burden of proof. But what it does do is it puts Israel on watch. The International Court of Justice on January 26th last said that Israel should take all measures to prevent any acts that could be considered genocidal. So that Israel considered that a victory at the time, as did South Africa. But it did constitute a marker, as does this ruling. So it does not necessarily mean the genocide case is any more likely to succeed, but it does offer the more ammunition in the case. And also Western countries have been boxed into a corner by all this. They have long been very strong supporters of the various international courts and tribunals, but rarely have these courts been turned on their own allies. And not sticking to their principles now risks undermining the credibility of those courts more or less in perpetuum. The European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, said yesterday that the EU will have to choose between respecting the EU's support for international institutions or its support for Israel. Likewise, Western countries are quite scrupulously saying that they will respect the international arrest warrants that might be issued by the courts. Even Germany, Israel's strongest supporter, said that it would respect it. Olaf Scholz now was very quick to say that there are no international arrest warrants issued as of yet. And of course, Western countries are hoping that this will never come to pass. But for now, they're treading a very fine line.
All right, so we'll be keeping an eye on those Western countries. This ICJ ruling then not having an impact on Israel's actions, but might it have an impact on the political future of Benjamin Netanyahu?
We don't know it for sure yet. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu is a very unpopular man in Israel. Only 15% of the public want him to keep his job after the war. But he is fortunate, however, that an overwhelming majority of people in Israel support the war in Gaza. So as long as that continues, his job is secure. Netanyahu has said himself he's brushed away calls from the opposition for an election, saying that an election right now would benefit only Hamas. And the Israeli Prime Minister has good reason to keep going. If he is deposed, he is likely to be investigated in various corruption cases that have dogged him over the past few years. He's largely managed to keep the wolf from the door with that, but it won't keep happening indefinitely. His political capital is rapidly diminishing, particularly given the massive protests against his judicial reforms that dominated Israeli politics for the 9 months before the October 7th Hamas attacks last year. Netanyahu is also at loggerheads with the military top brass and reportedly with his own defence minister, Yoav Gallant. But the war is a unifying cause in Israel, and all these edicts from the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, and criticism from Israel's allies abroad, even Washington, they serve only to heighten the siege mentality within Israel and galvanise the country. So unpopular as Netanyahu is, he is in charge now. And even though there are a number of the families of hostages held in Gaza want a ceasefire to secure their release, there's not actually much appetite for a ceasefire among the broader public in Israel. So unpopular as he is, for now, he's in the driving seat. And it's going to be very, very difficult to unseat him until this war is over and the dust settles, and then Israeli society will take stock. However, he might be very, very careful about what countries he visits over the next year or so, because those arrest warrants, they may eventually come, and even Israel's allies in Europe might feel that they have to actually honour them should they arrive.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. It might really limit the way he can move around. Oliver, thank you so much for that. That's our international affairs editor there, Oliver Farry.